So for today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how I like to play on mines. So we're going to be looking at it from the southern perspective first, and obviously in this case I'm going to be in a medium tank, but really it just sort of applies to any tank with decent mobility. So typically on mines what will happen is a lot of people like to fight for the hill, and this is the typical route they'll take. I mean, they'll take something along this lines. Basically what you have is a choke point right here. So a lot of the times I like to take advantage of this choke point because obviously, when you cross with your side like this, you can get free shots. And likewise, when the north spawn crosses like this, they're showing their side to you. So what I do is, this is my approach to every single map in the game. If I see a choke point or a route that people take, I often try to disrupt that route that they'll take. So a very easy way to do that is from this rock right here, and a lot of the times you can get shots in the light tanks who try to poke like so, and this is going to be really helpful to your team because it means you avoid showing your side to the enemy, but for your teammates who you have no control over, who do decide to do that, you can really help them while minimizing your risk. Once that's done, from this rock here, it's at F4. A lot of the times what I'll do is I'll just sort of poke like this. You can see a lot of there's going to be heavies in this area. There's also going to be heavies in this sort of area. And generally, if they aren't looking at you, it's very easy to get side shots into them. And I would suggest, giving this a try. Just make sure you're not poking on people who are looking at you. You want to be poking on people who are reloading, not looking at you, things like that, because people will begin to camp you if you consistently poke this corner and start wrecking them. So that's just my experience. One thing about this rock, I actually do think it's a really strong position, but it does have a weakness, is the one line. So what can happen on this map is people will push up all the way to this rock right here, and if you're in a taller tank like a Centurion Action X or something, they will have shots in you. The biggest thing is when you have no one who's gone to the one line and they have access to this bush right here, because you can see if they can just sit in this bush, they can very easily put shots into you when you're hiding behind this rock. So you need to pay attention to the one line when you've decided to play F4. Now, let's advance. Let's pretend you've decided to play the middle and you've decided to continue to stay in the middle because nothing's happened on the one line. There's a stalemate on the 890 and your team is beginning to win the hill. What I will do is I will push up and I will get very arty safe, and I will start putting side shots into their heavies. This works especially well in mediums with turret armor, but you can see if I go and sit here, it's very easy. I have some terrain cover right here, so what I'm going to do typically on this map is I'll just sort of drive up like so, and I'll look for shots on whoever is going to be in this area. In tier 10 it's like E100s and things like that, so I will just sort of hug this thingy right here, as well as this rock will generally keep you arty safe, and I just look for shots in people. And of course it's a lot easier if you have turret armor, but with leopard ones you can still do it, you just have to be more cautious. That's pretty much my play. On this map, if I play the middle, I generally won't go to the hill. What I will do, though, if they are pushing down the 9 line or down the 1 line and my team has control over the hill and I think it's safe, I will leave my rock. I'll make sure I pick up speed, so I'm going 60 to 65. That's going to minimize my chances of getting shot, and I will start to play the hill. And this is the reason this is important, is because if they're pushing down the 9 line or the 1 line, the hill has really good safe shots. You can control a lot of the map from, just easy locations like this, where obviously if they start pushing down the 1 line, I can lock them down behind these areas, behind this rock, because that's a lot of the times what people will push to. So if you're noticing, obviously situational awareness is extremely important, but if you're going to play F4, you see they're pushing the 1 line, get to the hill and start shooting them. You just make sure you have speed, point your turret towards the northern side of the map and work from there. On the 890, if I've played the middle and I see they're winning the 890, it's very similar. What I'll do is I will sit in this sort of area, and what you can do, there's a bit of land here, and this gives you more gun depression. You can see I'm tilting my tank right here. That's going to allow me to shoot down into the heavies who like to push into this area. There's also this rock, which I've played, but it's easier with tanks with tons of gun depression, because you can see I can only get down to this fence right here as far as gun depression goes. So it sort of works for poking on these guys and things like that, but typically I only go to this position if they're already here, right? So you can just sort of, again, use this tilt to very easily shoot down into the tanks who are below you. So yeah, that's my advice for the hill. What I see people doing when they have the hill is they're not playing intelligently, because what happens is they will go to these two rocks right here, and this rock right here is one of the worst positions that you can really put yourself in. And not in the sense like it's not like driving into the open or anything, but the second you go here, you're locking yourself down. So what will happen is generally there's a tank in this sort of area or a tank right here. All it takes is for them to look at you, right? If there's an E5 right here, he'll have the gun elevation to hit you, and it's going to be very difficult for you to run away because camping TDs, right? And clickers and things like that. So in my experience, this rock is really, really bad unless you've managed to clear out right here, because then you're going to be able to poke on people. But again, you're poking onto camping TDs who are going to be at A4, A5. So it's I'm not a huge fan of this rock. I prefer if I'm so we've already gone through the middle of the game. If I've sort of cleared out the the D5 pocket and I'm not playing the middle, what I will do is I will leave the hill. I won't use that as a tool to kill the camping TDs because my whole team is going to be there. I will pick up speed again. I'll leave the hill and I will push up slowly like this. And the reason this works is because you're keeping yourself safe from whichever TD. I mean, in tier 10, it's generally 268s or something similar to that. But, I mean, obviously in tier 5s and things like that, T67s will just sit here and just wreck you. So the way you want to approach dealing with camping TDs, instead of trying to do it on the 9 line or the 1 line or anything like that, I like to come to this location and I will sort of slowly push up, because you can see the only time you really expose yourself is right here when you're crossing in front of the 1 line, and obviously if someone's in this bush they might hit you, but it's so rare. I've never actually seen anyone camp there, so I'm sure in low tiers it happens, but you can, again, if you just pick up speed and make this cross quickly, you're not really going to get hit unless they get lucky or something. So do this quickly, and then once you get to this area right here, make sure you're unspotted, and then you can start scouting for your team, because you can see these bushes are literally designed for you to push up and get underneath them. You can see the way that they've been created does that perfectly. So what you can do, obviously nothing can be in C4 for you to be able to accomplish this, but you know, it's if there's nothing here, just sit in these bushes and anyone who fires will get lit by you. And the map is so small anyways, you'll probably be able to see through some of these bushes depending on who you're trying to spot and if they have a cabinet and things like that. But this is the position I'll go to if I'm trying to clear out the A4 campers and the game is close, because it's so aggressive but the bushes work so well, it's just amazing. That's pretty much it as far as the middle goes. There's some occasions where I will try to play the 1 line or the 0 line, so I guess I'll just go talk about the 1 line. In my opinion, it's not very strong. The 1 line will give you bushes on the 2 and the 3 line, which actually can be really good. There are some scouting bushes you can use. This one works. In fact, it's a lot better. So there's 2 clusters here, right? You can sit in this one, from the southern perspective. This bush that I'm in currently at G3, in my opinion, is generally going to be a bit better, because what will happen is it's extremely difficult for these guys to spot you, and if they start to rush down this line, you're putting more distance in between yourselves and them. So a lot of the times if you're sitting in this cluster right here, when people YOLO down the 1 line, they will spot you. Even if you're sitting in the bushes perfectly, there's a chance they might proxy spot you, but even then, bushes provide a percentage of camo, so if they're within 100 meters of you, they're probably going to light you. So I would suggest, if you want to scout, do it in this bush cluster here. You can always knock over this tree, give yourself even more cover, and give you, this is a lot of bushes to work with, but if you just hide your turret in this bush, it generally works out pretty well. That's as far as I go on the 1 line. You can always push up to this bush if you're trying to spot campers and things like that, but you have to clear out the 1 line first. So my experience with the 1 line is that it has to be extremely defensive because of the way the map works. I hate this side. I don't really play this area right here. I don't think it's very strong in a game like in 15v15. What I'll do is I will try to move up to this area. Well, first I'll poke this slowly and carefully, because people just sit in these bushes and whatever and shoot at you, but it's so easy. From here, I just sort of get up to this location and then I stay. A lot of people will try to push down the 1 line, and it's not good at all. For you to push, you have to drive in front of A4 TDs, and I mean, it doesn't work. So typically the best thing you can do from the 1 line is get side shots into the heavies, who you can see you can sometimes get shots from here, and I mean, that's pretty much it. You then have to rely on your teammates to spot the campers at A4 and try to shoot at them without getting spotted, which is quite a tall task. I don't really like to push down to here, but if you do have the opportunity, let's pretend they've got one TD left and you know he doesn't have very good view range, or you know he's behind a rock, you can very easily just sort of skirt up the side like so, and make your way to this rock here, and that's going to give you the ability to try to spot them and things like that. So that's how I'll try to push the one line. Normally I just play the middle because it's way better. I'd say the one line is the worst place to put your medium tank. It's much better to either play the mid or the zero, but if you have access to neither, obviously you sort of have to play the one line. So well, I mean, you're probably going to lose. If you don't have the middle or the 9-0, you're probably going to lose the game. So I guess I'll talk about playing the 9-0, and we're going to look at it again from the south side because that's what this guide is on. And when I get there, I'll give my opinions. Alright, so typically when I play the 9-0, I play it extremely aggressively. A lot of people like to play the 7 line underneath the hill. That's really bad for mediums because you're basically brawling heavies from the front. I love to come to this location right here if I'm ever trying to shoot at people. And you'll see there's tons of lines. You can shoot through these buildings and you just get perfect side shots on heavies. There's a house in the way, but if you shoot down this house right here, there's actually shots. It's sort of hard to see, but you can see through here, you can hit heavies in the side who are generally playing behind that rock. So shoot down some cover. There's obviously a ton of breakable cover here, but I will just sort of shoot through these bushes here into tanks who are going to be behind the rock at D7-ish. It's like D7, E7. There's a rock right there. You can hit those things from here, and that's when this position becomes valuable. You have to make sure that your team has the hill to be here, because otherwise what will happen on the hill is people will just sort of sit right here and they'll have very easy shots on you. So this position works great. You can farm a ton of people from here. There's lots of cover. And then once you've sort of cleared out the people who are right here, you can then sort of try to move up and use these bushes. Now again, you'll get spotted immediately if they have the hill, because you can see this is a peak on the hill, and if someone's there, they're going to light you. You don't really have bush cover from it. So just keep that in mind when you're playing this location. From here, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You have a ton of shots on basically everyone. You can shoot their base campers and things like that. If you don't want to engage the base campers, just pull back like so, and you see there is a solid tree. I wouldn't rely on this solid tree to work because I don't think it does very well, and typically, but you know, just be aware that you might get spotted when you're shooting through this because of the way just the bushes are designed and the close distances on this map. So that's my thoughts. What you can also do, I mean, you could shoot this down to give you better shots as you played this tree, because you can see once this building is out of the way, it's very easy to get shots on any sort of heavies who are trying to fall back. So consider doing that. Again, it doesn't hurt you to break down breakable cover, except I would keep this house here because it helps you when you're running away. But that's pretty much the gist of playing the 9 line. I don't like to push down across this area because it doesn't typically work in my experience. So I will just play here and then I'll shoot stuff. I won't go scout because scouting on this map is super in tier 10 gameplay when everyone has 445 meters plus view range. Just it doesn't work. You're going to get lit the second you get to here, and then this house is pretty much the only cover, because if you try to poke, you can see the bushes aren't very good right here. Just it doesn't work. I'm being honest. So I would suggest you just play C9 or whatever, and then you don't push down unless you have a death wish or the game is immediately over. That's pretty much it. I mean, I went and covered every single flank from the southern perspective. Inevitably, people are going to ask me about boosts, and to be honest, I don't care about boosts. They're pretty useless in my opinion. So of course, they do have a time and place. On this map, they are worth learning if you have the time. But I'm not going to cover boosts. I think they're pretty bullshit, and I don't really want to promote that kind of thing. So yeah, you can do boosts, and I'm sure there's tons of videos on mountain goats and things like that you can look up. I haven't practiced them. I don't really care about them. I think they're sort of game breaking, so I'm not going to cover them. So yeah. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was informative. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.